Well, after burying an 18-year hoodoo with the first win over Leinster in Dublin since 2002 last week, Connacht will hope to reignite their Conference B chances with a victory over the leaders Munster, who lost in Belfast against Ulster. Andy Friend makes 4 changes from the side that delivered that first ever RDS win over Leinster. 3 of those coming in the pack. Irish internationals Finlay Bealham and Ultan Dillane restored to the tight 5. Sean O'Brien in at number 6. The only backline alteration sees a first start for the Australian Ben O'Donnell, a 20-minute debut off the bench against Leinster. Cartian played outstanding in taking down the colours of the champions, so too the teak-tough midfield of Daly and Arnold. The importance of this fixture to Munster reflected in Johan van Graan's decision to make 14 changes from that defeat to Ulster in Belfast and the return of 10 Irish internationals. It's 13 of the side that beat Clermont-Auvergne in France a few weeks ago. Shane Daly, by the way, the only player retained from that season's first defeat to Ulster at the Kingspan. Conor Murray, by the way, making his first Pro 14 start of the season in the half-back formation, as indeed does Keith Earls. JJ Hanrahan, who kicked 24 points in that momentous comeback at the Marcel Michelin against Clermont, is in for Ben Healy at fly half tonight. Munster's 9-match winning start to the season coming to a rather dreary and tame end up in Belfast last weekend, when a much changed side lost 15-10 to Ulster. But the message coming from Munster ranks this week is that the defeat is not a momentum breaker. A shortened 15-game regular season, of course, and Munster know that a win in this top of the conference clash against their interprovincial rivals would mean a significant step towards a Pro 14 final on March the 27th. And you can just see the marquee names going through your picture there. It is a rather wet and dreary kind of Galway evening, not the frozen pitch of the RDS last night in that other great interprovincial match that we saw between the top 2 sides in the other conference, but and there is a stiff enough breeze blowing, as it seems to always do, across the pitch towards the College Road end here at the sports ground, and a light drizzle has been falling since around about 5:30 this evening. Well, if Munster's momentum was a gradual drip feed process that spiked in France 3 weeks ago with that incredible comeback win against Clermont, Connacht's momentum is probably still coursing through the veins 7 days after they lowered the colours of Leinster in their own backyard at the RDS with a long overdue victory. Can they back that up tonight against what is a locked and loaded Munster side? A massive game at the top of Conference B in the Guinness Pro 14, and it was interesting to hear Andy Friend this week say about the way they handled themselves in victory at the RDS last week. Quinn Roux got the players into a huddle behind the post right on the final whistle, and the first message he delivered to his players was, it means absolutely nothing unless we back it up with a win at home against Munster next week. Well, they walked the walk in Dublin last week, and they have talked the talk since then, and now they will try and kick on from there and get themselves back-to-back interprovincial wins over Leinster and Munster. Munster, though, will be primed to get back on track. They were in such good form before that little dip against Ulster. So good in Europe against Quins and Clermont, and unbeaten up until last week in this competition. It's all set up pretty nicely. And the man alongside me, Michael Swift, what are you anticipating over the course of the next 80 minutes or so?
Yeah, evening, Conor. I think I'm all set for a cracker tonight. I think, as you said, Connacht on the back of a magnificent victory last week in Leinster, where no one really gave much hope. But with that raises expectations, and there's pressure on this game tonight against a fully loaded Munster team, who, if they can win tonight, can probably get one foot in the semi-finals. So yeah, all to play for.
Frank Murphy, by the way, in charge tonight. And here come Connacht, ball in the hands of the ever impressive Jack Carty. So good last week, and early touch for Sammy Arnold. He and his midfield partner Tom Daly, a couple of battering ram last week. Very physical Munster pack tonight, though. They have come with all their heavy artillery for a big game. Conditions might just favour the visiting side. They know how to play this trench warfare type of game that the conditions possibly suit here. That Ball is not out. In fact, Murphy decides first penalty of the evening goes to the home side. We've played just over 90 seconds.
Yeah, a positive start there from Connacht. They'd be delighted to secure the first line out. As I said, the line out's been a bit wobbly for them so far this season. But we've seen the impact so far of Sammy Arnold there. Obviously out to make a big impression against his old province, and Alex Wooten there, obviously still a Munster player on loan for the year, but having a fantastic season for the Westerners.
So Connacht go to the corner and they look to that line out. It's an ambitious throw. It's gone all the way over the top, and it's been snapped up by the ever alert Jack Carty.
Okay. Can't play on because it went forward, but there was no clear release. No clear release from 10 on the tackle.
Yeah,
no clear release. Tackle was complete.
And I'm not sure whether that was an overthrow or that might have been a pre-plan, because Jack Carty was on the charge there and almost kind of got over.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that was definitely an overthrow, but great anticipation there by Jack Carty to sense that the ball was going to be overthrown once it went past the 15, and that gives them an opportunity to get 3 points on the board early doors.
Ultan Dillon and Quinn Rue in that Connacht second row tonight. Shane Delahunt was so good in the loose as well last week, but this is a really, really good opportunity now for Jack Carty. Breeze I was talking about is probably coming just from his left-hand side and blowing across the pitch, but well within his compass here. And he's probably allocated a little bit too much for the win there. If anything, he'll be really disappointed with that. That's a golden opportunity just to settle the nerves and get that scoreboard ticking. The hero of last week leaves 3 points on the post inside the opening 4 minutes.
Yeah, as you say, that's a golden opportunity missed there by Jack Carty, and he'd be hugely disappointed with that. And you know, his goal kicking last week was top notch, but you know, say sometimes it can be Achilles heel to his game. So hopefully he can, from Connacht's perspective, he can improve.
Alex Wooten, one of several players in Connacht ranks tonight, will be out to impress against their former colleagues. He's been razor sharp since arriving here.
Yes.
1 or 2 injury niggles, but he's been prolific in terms of try scoring. Ball has been knocked on. Keith Earls, by the way, back into the side tonight. We haven't seen too much of him. It's his first Pro 14 start since the semi-final, and only his third in all competitions this season.
Just a knock on.
Yeah, and that was a great bit of hang time there by Jack Carty on a kick to compete. He has a quite an unusual kind of kicking style, going back from his soccer days. And you saw it there, almost a banana kicking the ball using the inside of his foot, kind of curving at an angle and trying to let Alex Wooten try and compete there and John Porch. But Alex Wooten's had a lively start, and as I've said, he's sure to try and impress against his employers.
Let's go.
Interesting now from Connacht today, they were probably delighted to welcome back Finlay Bealham after his week's enforcement rest from the RFU protocols, and big opportunities for him tonight, and big test obviously against Cronin.
Yes, Dominic Robertson-McCoy started the game at the RDS last week and was pretty good and earned the praise of his coach, as indeed did Conor Kenny, who was the replacement tight head. But Finlay Bealham, much more experienced campaigner, brings a lot of stability to that front row. That triumvirate of Dennis Buckley and Shane Delahunt to his left. Dave Heffernan on the bench tonight for Connacht.
Yeah, and I think Andy Friend, he put the pressure on Finlay Bealham this week when he talked up Dominic Robertson-McCoy's performance last week, and kind of said, look, he didn't deserve to be dropped, but because Finlay missed the game time because of the RFU game time, he deserved a shot tonight.
Elbow down on that side from a Munster point of view, but referee happy to let play continue. Maul called, and look at they're swarming round those red jerseys. Turnover.
Held up.
Yeah, and Damien Devilande just shown his brute force there, and you know, Tom Daly on a charge. He's been pretty successful this season for Connacht, but didn't show much kind of change of direction there, and kind of ran in straight into Devilande. And JJ Hanrahan actually probably more so, and to be fair, JJ Hanrahan did very well to keep him up. Got the support of Deolande and forced the turnover for Munster. You saw the reaction what it meant to them there.
Lads, good far side, keep that please.
And looking at JJ Hanrahan there, you know, on the back of a fantastic performance, probably one of his best in a Munster jersey against Claremont 3 weeks ago, and a guy who's another confidence player and is probably, you know, really on top form at the moment.
Set!
Yeah, 24 points was an impressive return. Nerveless kicking display from the tee, and
2 of you are good there, lads. There's no problem. Far side went down. Just bring it away from the mess, please.
ringing endorsement of Munster's decision in France, trying to overturn such an early deficit, to go for the post time and time again. And Andy Friend mentioned that this week, the fact that they've looked at a lot of these big games that Munster have won in recent weeks, and a lot of their scores come down directly almost to penalties. Yeah, absolutely. It was a really interesting interview with Andy Friend this week, and says, look, what you need to stop, what you need against Munster is discipline. First and foremost, don't go away any easy penalties, because they lap them up. They kick the penalty goals, they kick to the corners, and they either score from driving balls or from first phase attack. The two front rows are down again this time. More importantly, on the Connacht side, says
sideways causing collapse. Pushing sideways causing the collapse. Far side of the scrum.
And just to reiterate, after that defeat in Belfast to Ulster, Munster on 33 points, which puts them 8 points clear of tonight's opponents at the top of the conference in Conference B. 7 wins and 1 defeat. The Scarlets then a point further in arrears, but plenty can happen. But it's a massive game in the context of the season. Munster will feel if they can get a victory here and kick on, potentially they can get a lot of the heavy lifting done before the last couple of games of the season. Just one team goes straight through to that final, remember? March the 27th. Tadhg is the target. Good lift and a nice clean catch. And they've made good progress, and they're still going, and if anything they're gaining a little bit more momentum, and now the Connacht numbers get back there. Sean O'Brien and Conor Oliver in there, and now Sean Masterson too, but well, they've made 25-30 metres, and now they have the advantage. JJ Hanrahan could hear that, and he's dinked one into the corner. Really good work from the Munster fly half. Option of the penalty.
Number 2.
Yeah, and you felt before the game that Munster would definitely target the driving maul area. Connacht this season have been pretty poor in defending and giving away a lot of penalties in that specific field. And Munster need no invitation to take a driving maul option there, and made 20 yards and really put a foot down and said, look, this is what we're going to be doing tonight on a night which isn't too kind now, with the rain heavily falling. They're going to try and take Connacht up front, and that's a fantastic start from Munster, setting the stalls out.
Shot call.
Lengthy chat over what is the best play here, and shot at the post is the call, and a chance for JJ Hanrahan to just lay a little bit of a psychological marker down if he can slot this after Carty missed his at the other end. Running repairs for one of the big units in that heavy pack tonight, John Klein.
Yeah, I thought for a second actually that that maybe Munster have gone a little bit too far, and that Peter Romani kind of tripped over his own player, but no, I think Frank Murphy, the referee tonight, deemed that one of the Connacht forwards had come in from an offside position and awarded the penalty. And as I said, it was a big marker there put down from Munster early on.
I thought he was superb last week, Quinn Roux, in pretty much everything that he did. So too Tom Daly in the game at the RDS. But then there weren't too many out there that you couldn't tip your hat to and say they had a wonderful game. It takes that kind of 1-23 performance to beat Leinster at home, as Connacht know only too well. That's a good looking strike from JJ Hanrahan, and up go the flags, and the first points of the evening at the sports ground in Galway go to the visitors and the team top of the conference.
Yeah, and JJ Hanrahan starting there as he left off against Claremont with a lovely kind of kick there to give Munster the early lead. Just going back to the Claremont game, because it's the same kind of, a lot of the same group from Munster that played 3 weeks ago, and if you are critical, one of the areas that they probably weren't at the best were the restarts, so Connacht might look to try and put a bit of pressure on when the wind is in their face.
All backwards.
Well, right on cue, but it did go backwards from CJ Stander, but nonetheless it made it very difficult for Shane Daly to try and tidy things up, and I couldn't agree with you anymore. I thought they were very, very sloppy in some of their exit strategies and kick receipts.
And you know, there's nothing worse than when you've scored some points, whether that be 3, 5 or 7, and all of a sudden you're on a restart, you're put under immediate pressure from your opposition.
All the way towards CJ Stander.
Tackle!
Brave call from Kevin O'Brien, but it has paid dividends. If Munster can exit their 22 here.
Use it!
Phase or two, will it be a Conor Murray box kick? And just up into touch on the 10-metre line, so they do clear their lines effectively.
Yeah, Conor Murray will be delighted with the outcome of that kick.
On the line.
He was under pressure there. There was two carries that didn't get too many gain line there, but decided to kick put straight into touch, and got a good 30 kind of metres on that.
Let's go,
to put pressure again on the Connacht line out as they come together. It looks like it could be a shorter line out, but a big kind of conversation going on there, which sometimes doesn't bode well for the pursuing line out.
Tell them numbers, Connacht.
Well, there was a long conversation. It resulted with a skewed throw from Dennis Buckley.
Line out.
I'm not sure what the objective was there.
Yeah, and I must have missed somehow that Shane Delahunt's obviously gone off injured, and there wasn't time to bring on a replacement in Dave Heffernan, so I'm not sure exactly what happened there, whether there was no time allowed to give that from Frank and Frank Murphy, and he's obviously just told him to get on with it, and poor old Dennis Buckley had to throw the ball in. Hence why there was a big conversation in the middle of the pitch beforehand, which we didn't realise.
So for the time being, at least, Shane Delahunt has gone off. The improvisation from Dennis Buckley wasn't exactly what was required, but he put his hand up for responsibility. Ultimately, it's a turnover of possession. Munster have it now.
Use it!
I'm just looking across, and it looks as though Dave Heffernan might have to come in. I'm not sure about the injury to Delahunt. Good take from Ben O'Donnell. Interesting to see what he can bring to the table, the Aussie Sevens player. Certainly enjoyed his 20 minutes at the RDS last week, and what a game to come into and make your debut. I'm sure he was reveling in the scenes in the Connacht dressing room in Dublin 4 last week.
Yeah, that gave him great confidence there. That was a great kick under pressure. Great catch under pressure, sorry.
He took a really good high ball last week as well. Now, Munster up to halfway. Will they look to the short side? James Cronin wants it. Conor Murray has a little bit of a look down that blind side. Sean O'Brien back in the side tonight. Keelan Blade was there with a tackle as well.
Use it! Stay, Connacht.
Munster taking their time and looking to apply some kick pressure. That's another really good climb and take by the ever dependable, it seems these days, John Porch, whether he's a fullback or on the wing, equally adept and almost flawless. Knocked forward on that occasion by Alton Delan, but it was because of the impact of the hit in the close contact area.
All the way, lads.
Yeah, you can see there's a clear game plan there from Munster. They're taking a couple of hit-ups, but they're not really prepared, and it's no surprise given the conditions to run the ball when they don't need to. And Conor Murray is putting some great box kicks up there to compete. First one was taken well by Ben O'Donnell, but unfortunately from Connacht it was a knock-on by Alton Delan, and Munster get a net gain there of about 30 metres. But as you said, another great catch there by Ben O'Donnell. And you know, you look at these Sevens players, and they have this really strong skill set in a lot of the in the core skills because of the Sevens game.
By 11 red on that.
So penalty to
yes, penalty only.
Tackling the air.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Captain. Okay, Timo's just came in.
Well, there's the knock on, but the decision from the television match official tonight, who's Brian McNeese, is that player was taken out in the air, and it's going to be a Connacht penalty.
And 22 is going to be your penalty. We'll start with that.
Yeah, and the right decision, and just a penalty offence, and it leaves lets Connacht off the hook there.
You know the ones.
Yeah, it was just a bit messy there.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not sure who it was.
Shane Daly.
Yeah, Shane Daly. Yeah, just a bit messy, and I think he realised when he got close that he wasn't going to be able to compete and jump up with the ball. Kind of stopped himself in his tracks, but he'd already made contact with O'Donnell, and hence the penalty. But as we said, I think it's a clear indication of Munster's game plan tonight. They're going to keep it tight. They're going to box kick. They're going to put the pressure. They're going to try and suffocate Connacht into making mistakes, whether it be knock-ons or turnovers, with the likes of Amani over the ball or Stander.
Want to be on the 22 there. Carl, are we good to go? Okay.
There's some concern for John Klein, and he's bitterly disappointed. Good to see him up and leaving the field of his own volition, but a player who's had a couple of pretty serious neck injuries in the recent past, and that seemed to be the area that was being treated after that fairly innocuous looking collision. So Finnan Wycherley is in, and as I suspected, Shane Delahunt is not fit to return, so Dave Heffernan is into the middle of the front row for Connacht.
Yeah, and with Dave Heffernan, we all know what he can bring in the loose. He's a fantastic runner. His work rate is phenomenal. Sometimes potentially his thrown-in can be his weakness, his weak point. So for his point of view, I think here Connacht might just trying to simplify him, give him some confidence, throw to the front or middle, just to get the ball running with his throwing in.
He's under pressure now to do better than Dennis Buckley, isn't he?
That wouldn't have been difficult with that last throw.
And he finds Sean O'Brien. Daly into contact, and here is Heffernan in the loose, ball in hand, Keelan Blade to his half-back partner, and away goes the former Munsterman Sammy Arnold into contact and into a lot of red shirts over the ball, and James Cronin is there to effect the turnover.
Yeah, and we just seen the effect of what an aggressive line speed can do for an attack there. Pitcher Jack Carty got the ball, he was faced with, I think it was Chris Farrell, right up in his face, decided to stop that particular play, move it back to the right-hand side, where Sammy Arnold got turned over because the players weren't there in support, because it was a bit more off the cuff, which Andy Friend, doesn't really like in terms of the second phase play there, and unfortunately for Connacht got turned over.
Get your line, please. Back in your front line, please, Connacht.
But an opportunity now for Munster, and don't be surprised if they try to go to the maul again after getting great success in the first time round.
Yeah, really good kick down that far left-hand side, and prime field position. It was a very high delivery, fielded at the second attempt by Peter O'Mahony over on that open side flag tonight, with Gavin Coombs wearing number 6, and they're off at a rate of knots here again. Ty Byrne goes in to help out Kevin O'Byrne.
Advantage, side entry.
Almost inevitable given the pace they were working at. There was going to be a penalty coming from Frank Murphy, and Conor Murray was there, all eyes to see what the opportunity was. Tag Byrne now takes it on. Quick ball required. They've options both sides. Chewing up in behind CJ Stander here, but they'll surely just keep it in with CJ Stander. No arms tackle from Sean O'Brien brings another penalty advantage. Cronin goes for the line. He's half a yard too short. Murray assesses the options, and there is space, and he finds space, and the first try comes in the 19th minute from Chris Farrell.
Yeah, and Munster there really starting to turn the screw. An ominous signs there from a Connacht perspective. Once again, how many times have we seen Peter O'Mahony with that one-handed take, plucking the ball from the air and setting up a fantastic maul on the back of it. That was almost moving too quick at times. But what a take again from O'Mahony. Managed to gather the ball with his left hand.
He scored a try, though. I'm happy.
But yeah, once again a fantastic formation from Munster, getting great length in there and creating another penalty. And then kind of carries from there onwards. And then Chris Farrell.
Okay.
With the Connacht defence stretched, comes over for a try for Munster.
The TMO interjection. So
yes, at one stage as Munster were scurrying forward there at a rate of knots with 5 or 6 in the maul. It was only Dave Heffernan, it seemed, on the other side of it.
To sub him, right? I think explain to him that it was our fault.
Pretty good from the kicking tee from JJ Hanrahan. Munster lead by 10 points to 0.
Yeah, and because the Connacht defence was so tight there, it was only a matter of time until Chris Farrell kind of showed his strength and went in between Wooten and Porch for Munster's try. Important kind of 10 minutes now for Connacht though. They really haven't really put a stamp in this game yet, and need to get some kind of foothold and some possession and territory in the Munster third.
So Shane Delahunt is back with us. Full complement restored. We've played 20 minutes and Munster, largely on the back of a very effective maul, are dominating Connacht so far, playing the conditions and playing the percentages.
The line is the middle. The line is the middle, Pete.
Yeah, and another opportunity now for Connacht, and Connacht can't seem to get out of their own half at the moment. And another mistake there from John Porch, kicking it straight into touch. Just puts more pressure on his pack.
Once again, O'Mahony is the target. He manages to get a hand on it, back on the Munster side, and a chance for Delaney to take on that Connacht midfield. And they bring him to ground pretty well. Thought for a second there might have been a little bit too much on that, but that's pretty well orchestrated down this right-hand side.
Yeah, it just shows the strength of Dealande there. He wasn't expecting the ball. It was a bit of a misthrow from Munster's perspective, but they adapted, got over the gain line, and a lovely little kick there by Hanrahan. Just saw that the Connacht back three coverage had just come up slightly and just found the gap, found the grass. Did exactly there what Jack Carty was doing against Leinster last week. And Connacht decided to shorten it to a 5-man line out.
Good contest. Oh, Carty's got a couple of fairly big Munster players to deal with there in his peripheral vision as he tries to take it out of defence. But
contest. You're fine, one is not.
It's James Cronin, I think, has gone off his feet there.
Yeah, Tyke Byrne was fine, but as I said, James Cronin was the offender. But it just shows there, even though Connacht managed to get the ball back, it wasn't clean, and because of that Jack Carty had to kind of take the ball up himself, and messy, and it's not what they want.
Well, 10 minutes in the bin for Shane Delahunt comes at the cost of 10 points, and that's why Connacht will find themselves trailing here. They've got to just try and get a little bit of a foothold in Munster territory, it seems. Kicked the ball 30 times, remember, at the RDS in that win against Leinster last week. 18 times from hand for Jack Carty, and this time he just fires one down into that Munster 22.
And that's better by Jack Carty. He managed to find grass there, as you said. Just gives the time, a bit more time for the Connacht defenders to come up and put a little bit more pressure on the kick. That was slightly skewed. So opportunity now for Connacht in the Munster half to try and build some possession, build some territory, and just try to get a bit of a gain line in this game, because at the moment you have to say it's been all Munster.
Don't come early, 9.
Unorthodox but effective kick from Mike Healy.
Advantage, contact in the air.
In the conditions, we saw Jack Carty using the full repertoire of kicking skills last week. That wiper kick that he put into the corner in the second half was exceptional. Now here's the ever lively Alex Wooten.
No advantage. Counter ruck is good.
Yeah, I think that was Gavin Coombs illegally touching the
contact in the air.
I think it was contact in the air, and in these days any kind of contact in the line out, and we saw last night as well that there's no other alternative but to give a penalty, and sometimes even more there. And
there's your mark, lads.
Actually in there, yeah, Mani might even feel himself a little bit fortunate there. There was actually probably no attempt to try and get the ball, and kind of use his right elbow to make sure the Connacht player kind of went to ground.
A decent nudge down into the 22 from Jack Carty. So often is the case with Keelan Blade and Jack Carty. If they can wrestle kind of a hold on the game and the pattern of the game, that's when Connacht are at their best. And how many times have we said it though when we come to Galway, and it's always bemoaned by Andy Friend, their style of play is not necessarily suited to these type of conditions, and the type of conditions we see so often at this ground. And look, they've lost 35-40 metres there out of sloppy ball at line-out time, and they're back right down to halfway. There's one of those low trajectory kicks I was talking about, well covered. And that's the benefit of having someone like Shane Daly on that blindside wing, so comfortable under the high ball and at full-back. It's just not happening at the moment for Connacht. That one slicing off the boot from Carty.
No, again, an unforced error there, and there was probably no excuse for that. It was just a simple pull-back pass, but it went to ground. Deolandi got a little kick through, and all of a sudden, pressure on Jack Carty in his own 22 leads to a net gain there, about 50 metres for Munster. And again, Connacht are under pressure, and the Devils are own downfall there.
Maul.
Good claim by Wycherley. Both the Wycherley brothers starting on the bench tonight for Munster, by the way.
Vantage, changing bind.
Yes, I was wondering how Frank Murphy might see the intervention there of Sean Masterson.
No advantage, Maul's gone to the ground. Number 8, changing bind.
This Maul is it's a big problem at the moment for Connacht.
Yeah, that was actually that was very silly play there by Masterson. Probably showed a little bit of inexperience there, as Frank Murphy saying, changed his bind, came in around the back of the Munster player, which he can't do. And I thought actually Connacht had negated the original Maul there pretty well, and Alton Delan went flying in and added his weight, and I thought they had nullified there at source, but Sean Masterson couldn't resist and kind of came round there in offside position and has given away another penalty, and I think that's their third penalty from the Maul, and Munster will sense that. Omani will know that, and he'll be trying to dig this even deeper now and trying to turn the screws, because he sees it as their big weakness tonight for Connacht.
Yes, it's all about the picture you paint to the officials, and Frank Murphy in particular, and you couldn't even accuse him of swimming down the side of that Maul. He kind of dived in the deep end, didn't he, right in front of the referee.
Yeah, and there was no need for Masterson to do that. As I said, Alton Delan came in, added his weight. Connacht seemed to have it nullified, but unfortunately, Andy Friend talks about these easy penalties, these red penalties, as he puts it, that he doesn't want to see, and that's an illustration of one there. Just puts more pressure on Connacht.
Yes, he hates those red penalties, the dummy penalties as he refers them. Prime field position again from a Munster side who have started very well in the opening half hour here, as they look to bounce back from that defeat to Ulster back to winning ways.
Yes, good.
Tadhg Byrne evading the challenge of Sean Masterson. Now the World Cup winner Deolandi takes it on up to the Connacht 22. Now that's good work by a combination of Sean O'Brien and Conor Oliver in particular. Oliver, but he's in really good form of late.
Yeah, and Connacht needed that bit of energy changer there from Sean O'Brien, and that might, hopefully from Connacht, might be the thing to kind of spur them into action there. But it was a strange that the ball was there for Conor Murray, but he just slowed it down. He just got his pack of 3 forwards to set the ball up with Tadhg Byrne, just to slow it down a bit. And Deolandi, was his brace of best there. Took 3 players to kind of bring him down, but his support wasn't there, and Connacht managed to force a turnover.
Great to see Sean O'Brien back in the thick of the action. He brings a little bit of a different animal to the Connacht pack, as we know. So too Conor Oliver in recent weeks. He's been so dynamic and physical. Blade gets it away to Finlay Bealham, wrapped up by CJ Stander. There's a lot of power in that collision.
Held in by the Connacht player, no problem.
Stander worked hard to get out of there before he fell foul of Frank Murphy's whistle. Huge height on that kick, hanging in the evening sky, the damp evening air in Galway. Well collected by Healy.
Use it!
There you go, ball in hand. Wycherley takes it on from Gavin Coombs. Probably wise decision from Archer to leave that, on a good take under the circumstances from Tadhg Byrne.
Use it!
Box hit dropping midway between that halfway line and the 10-metre line. Well taken by Carty. Support is there. The clear out is there from Keith Earls to avoid Coombs getting hands on for a would-be turnover. Is there any kind of space at all? That's good from Masterson, the kind of physical approach that they need to try and get some advantage on the gain line and get in behind this Munster side. It's been thwarted at source by a huge Munster pack so far. Here they come again now with Oliver. Support in there from Delan.
No way!
Keelan Blade leaves it then. Delan is over it. Blade goes back for a second bite. Carty, but it's been slowed down by the intervention of CJ Stander there, and Dealande is over it. Munster player on the floor in the wrong position is Tadhg Byrne, and that's where the advantage is from. Keelan Blade with that advantage.
No advantage.
Yeah, and it's fairly messy.
Not rolling.
It's fairly messy at ruck time there, and I thought Munster done a really good job of just being nasty and aggressive at the breakdown. Just a few of the dark arts, just slowing the ball down slightly, not creating quick ball. From a Connacht perspective, though, there's still timing issues. There's a couple of players overrunning the ball when the ball should be there to pass the ball. Andy Friend probably won't be too happy at the moment with the way his team's performing, but maybe the likes of Sean Masterson there, he's a big lump, number 8 for Connacht. And Sammy Arnold trying to run into channels, but yeah, maybe the run by Sean Masterson might give him a little bit of impetus, because at the moment they're kind of looking for someone to give them a spark into life, just to create some positive vibes within the 15, because at the moment they all see everything seems a little bit flat and a bit quiet.
Jack Carty sliced that a little bit, didn't he? And I think there was a few nervous looks down towards that far corner to make sure it finished on the right side of the flag. At least it seemed that way, otherwise he's measured it to absolute perfection.
I think this is the first time that Connacht have been, apart from the penalty kick, but you know, their conversion rate in recent weeks have been pretty good in the 22, so we'll see what happens here.
Well, can they deliver a little bit of their own medicine to this Munster side, who have used them all very effectively? They're not really making any ground at all. And then say well-oiled machine, that Munster rather forward pack. Daly makes a good carry, and this is the kind of position where Connacht can be very dangerous. Delahunt, frenzied attack. Daly again, look at the defence from Dealande in there, 12 on 12. Big collision right in front of those posts. Masterson there as Connacht look to go again. Wycherley on the defence, they're all over it. Buckley's in there, Keelan Blade, who's the target. Daly again. Try last week against Leinster when he took on 3 or 4 and he beat them all, and he took 2 or 3 with him then. Inside the 5-metre line, anybody on the short side. Wooden's come in a little bit. Keelan Blade needs to make sure real scrap in order to try and get any kind of clean and quick possession at the breakdown. Munster doing very well to slow down the ball. Blade can see it. Quinn Roux is there as a dependable option. Scrum half goes in again. Beelum is there, but they go a little bit wider to Sammy Arnold, and the ball has been knocked on. We were playing, well, multiple phases right in there, and that'll be a huge let-off and a disappointment for Connacht.
Yeah, it's not a night for the purists. Obviously, conditions dictating, and it's going to be a real arm wrestle for the winner tonight. And Connacht kind of keeping it tight. Tom Daly, seen there, coming more and more into the game when he uses that little left-hand fend and left step. He's a dangerous runner, big and strong. With a nice little side step there and handoff. But the Munster defence, you can see the energy in the Munster players. They're almost pushing each other to try and make tackles, and that's what you want to see in the defence. Really loud, we can hear from up here. Everyone just trying to beat each other to make that tackle, to just fight for those inches. It's great to see.
Okay. Need you square.
Yes, we've spoken a few times this season about elements of Munster's defence, that they can be a little bit passive when they're further out the field, but once they're on the defensive deep inside that 22, it's frenzied, all hands to the pump, as it was there through Connacht's multiple phases, well up into double figures.
Bind!
Better though from Connacht, and it did all stem from that burst from Sean Masterson, younger brother of Owen.
Number 1.
Yeah, pre-engaged there from the loose head. Dennis Buckley allows Munster an easy exit, albeit with a free kick to give Connacht the line out. But as I said, earlier, Connacht have actually been really impressive in recent weeks in terms of their conversion ratios in the opposition 22. But unfortunately, on that occasion, I think it was Sammy Arnold just knocked the ball on. I don't think he was expecting it. It went in front of 2 other players. I think he was more expecting to be a supporter as opposed to a ball carrier.
Speaking of conversion rates, I was interested to read in one of the articles after the game at the RDS last week that Connacht dominating that first half, 25 points to 5. Of course, Leinster only visited the Connacht 22 on 2 occasions and spent 14 seconds in 40 minutes in there. Remarkable. Jack Carty gets swallowed up by a combination of Conor Murray and Peter O'Mahony, I think it was.
Yeah, that was a really good read by O'Mahony and Murray there. Negated the attack.
Alex Wooten in there to help out, but look, it's that blue scrum cap. We've seen him in that position, locked on to the ball so many times. It's another great turnover from Tagburn.
And as I said, Peter O'Mahony and Conor Murray leading the way in defence there, kind of swallowing up Jack Carty. But even on that occasion, I think that there was timing issues with the Connacht attack, and Nigel Carolyn, the attacks coach from Connacht, I think won't be too happy with the first half an hour of play. Guys overrunning the ball, guys not kind of reading the situation in front of them, and unfortunately there, Tagburn, probably no better exponent over the ball, forcing the turnover.
Thanks, Pete.
And Jimmy Duffy this week getting so many plaudits for the way that the Connacht defence was set up last week, and their line speed and their aggression, physicality, everything was absolutely on point. Very different type of game, different conditions tonight, and let's not forget there were a myriad of mitigating factors against Leinster last week, missing a lot of key men. You're talking about a side, 13 of the side that went to France and won at the Marcel Michelin, and 11 internationals coming back in tonight, Michael.
Absolutely, and that was always going to be the test, was tonight, as you said, after winning last week, and I think Quinn Roux talked about that during the week. That result was worth probably nothing if they couldn't back it up here tonight, and it's going to be it's a big, strong test for the Connacht pack.
And there is Quinn Roux right on cue in the thick of the action, just doing enough there to affect a turnover.
Yeah, leading by example there, and that's maybe the spark that they need when you see the likes of Quinn Roux, who's been fantastic for Connacht this year, and really stepping up in his leadership qualities as well. And Andy Friend couldn't speak more highly of him during the week as the standing captain for Jared Butler while he's out.
Patience. Don't go early. Don't put him in.
We see there that the brute force of Quinn Roux holding the guy up when there's 3 Munster players trying to get him out of the equation. Really good play there by Quinn Roux.
And also looking over his shoulder to make sure that Frank Murphy knew exactly what he was doing. And they get the decision.
Crouch!
They spent too much of the opening 38 minutes of this game camped on in and around this area. They've been able to effect very little pressure in the 22. You accept that last little passage of play, which finished with a Sammy Arnold knock on.
Shoulder out here and shoulder out here.
Yeah, and both front rows just kind of cramping up in terms of the space. Dennis Buckley we see there on the loose head side for Connacht. Obviously he's not the tallest guy in the world. Archer probably has a few inches on him and is trying to kind of maybe just kind of tighten it up a little bit so that he's not been able to use his extra height.
Sidestep in, not stable before the put-in.
Yeah, and I think that's a couple of free kicks now
sidestepping before the put-in
from both teams. It's getting messy at the original set, and Frank Murphy might have his work cut out in the second half if that continues.
All the way down to the doorstep of the Munster 22 to Mike Haley. Pumps up to Gary Owen and takes it on. Took it well, too quickly, dropped over his shoulder, and despite the attentions of Conor Oliver, Hanrahan deals with a suspect delivery and taken on by the try scorer Chris Farrell. 10 points to no score. Last couple of minutes of the opening 40 here in Galway. Dialande, and suddenly there's a little bit of space potentially for Munster to move the ball to the edge. Fizzed in once again from Conor Murray to Coombs, and that was ambitious towards James Cronin. Couldn't take it. Is there something potentially from deep with John Porch? O'Mahony on the cover back there. Daly, has he got the ability to get away from John Porch? Well, he tried to maybe just sneak one out the back door and get away with it. That's gone forward though.
Yeah, Munster maybe just trying to be a little bit too clever there, and just trying to attempt him just to shift the focus of the maul there and try to get the extra pass in. When unfortunately the supporter was obviously there, and I think it's Coombs was way forward. But just going back a little bit there, it was a great bit of glimpse into Munster's attacking play and maybe what Larkin was bringing to the equation. We saw Tyburn there taking the ball at full pelt, but managed to have the ability to stop, pull the ball back about 3 or 4 metres and then create some disruption in the Connacht defence. And again, the ball goes past him to the next runner. Just really subtle little plays that you can see the Larkham influence is starting to really kind of take shape in this Munster team. And maybe that win in Claremont, you know, maybe that was the breaking of the glass ceiling that we've been talking about for a few years.
You happy?
Yeah, first 2 or 3 games in this competition, certainly they rode their luck a little bit and escaped with a couple of really important wins. You think of that late Ben Healy kick against Scarlets in a game. It didn't look as though they were going to win. They ground out a few results, and then when the opportunity has been afforded to them, you think of the game against the Cardiff Blues at Thomond Park, where they were electric in the second half in terms of the continuity and fluidity of their attack, linking backs and forwards, and it's been a marked improvement from Munster, fully deserving of their position at the top of the conference and in the box seat here against a team who they've beaten on each of the last 5 occasions.
Number 3 on the arm, collapsing.
Scrum penalty against Stephen Archer.
Yeah, and this time, it's, as you said, it's the tight head Archer. Seems to be pulling the arm on Dennis Buckley and gives Connacht an easy out here and opportunity to put some well-needed points on the board. And you know, Van Graan probably won't be too happy there, because you know Munster have made Connacht fight for every inch of possession today. So for them to give an easy penalty away there, an opportunity to get 3 points, would be slightly too easy for Connacht. Albeit he missed the first kick, and the pressure's on for him to kick this one.
It's a pretty identical position. Pulled the previous one to the left-hand side. Will he overcompensate potentially, or has he judged that? Pulls it around from the right-hand side, and it sneaks inside that right-hand upright. And the man who scored 25 points at the RDS gets Connacht's first points of this game at the Galway Sports Ground, right at the end of a fairly tempestuous 40 minutes dominated by the Munster team, and particularly the Munster pack, and they lead at half-time by 10 points to 3. Welcome back to the Sports Ground in Galway. Connacht, the first team to emerge from the half-time dressing room. A little bit galvanised perhaps by that late penalty from the boot of Jack Carty, but they were on the back foot for the lion's share of the opening 40 minutes against a revved up Munster pack of forwards who'd come here and played territory and played the conditions and fed off their maul, but still very much there for the taking for both sides. If there is a little bit of breeze, albeit it seems to have dissipated slightly from kickoff, as indeed fortunately has the rain, it is going to favour Connacht in this second half, but it's not anything like the gale that we had a couple of weeks ago for the Connacht-Ulster match, where Ulster played the conditions brilliantly in the second half. It's not going to be that unfavourable for either side. Chris Farrell with the try after some good Munster pressure, but as you were saying, Michael, it has been kind of one for the purists, and maybe there's wisdom in that method from Munster coming here with this team to play these conditions.
Absolutely, and at half-time, looking at some of the stats, you know, there's only 2 players in both teams that have achieved double figures in metres gained. Nice. I think it's Stander and Masterson, the 2 number 8, so it just shows this game is really going to be one in the tight. It's going to be one in small, sharp carries, possibly looking for penalties to kick to the corners, to kick the points. But yeah, it's going to be a low scoring affair, I think, in the second half, and as we said, it's going to be a war of attrition.
You're right.
JJ Hanrahan then is ready to get us underway for this second half. A high tariff, 4 points tonight when it's first against second in the conference. Very interesting 40 minutes. The next score when it's 10 points to 3, absolutely crucial. You feel certainly from a confidence point of view for Connacht, who've been a little bit below par tonight. It was always going to be interesting from a psychology point of view, coming here just 7 days after that historic win against Leinster at the RDS. Could they maintain that kind of momentum? That's pretty clever work from the ever alert Munster scrum half Conor Murray, taking his team forward in the opening 60 seconds after the restart here, almost up towards that Connacht 22. There's the hands between the forwards. Tyburn to Kevin O'Byrne. Murray now again. Hanrahan, can they manufacture something? They go for the bulk of Chris Farrell. Finlay Beelum in there with a challenge, and here's Gavin Coombs. Well, that's a nasty collision, is it? Robust carry from Coombs, but one of the Connacht players has come off a little bit worse for wear. I can't quite see who it is. It might be Sean Masterson. I thought it was Finlay Beelum, but there's Beelum in with a tackle. I think it is the number 8, but Munster carry on very close to the Connacht physio. Frank Murphy happy for now at least to let play continue, and Munster
black offside.
Going to get the penalty. I think it's against Tom Daly for offside. Advantage.
Knock on. We go back for the penalty for offside. Keep time off for this man.
Yeah, and you feel that. I think that's it's Sean O'Brien down 12, injured, and you really feel for Sean O'Brien. You hope it's nothing too serious, because that guy has had a fair share of injuries over the years, and you hope it's nothing too serious. Looks like they're looking at his jaw or cheek, and you just hope that it's not a serious injury again. But from a Munster perspective, there straight from the kickoff, it seems they've just gone up an extra gear there in terms of ball carries, in terms of clear outs. Conor Murray looking pretty dangerous around the fringes as well, so ominous signs from Connacht at the start of the second half.
Making a change, guys. Yeah. Okay.
We saw I think it was Kevin Burns, sorry, with the tip pass to Tyburn, and maybe
what are you doing, guys?
The better option might have been through the back door, because I thought Connacht were slightly tight in defence, and
shot call, lads.
And maybe the pull-back pass might have been the better option there. But look, they still managed to hold on to possession, as we see Conor Murray with a little break down the blind side and just asking questions of the Connacht fringe defence, which gives Hanrahan an opportunity to extend the lead.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for Sean O'Brien. He will have to go off for a HIA, you would venture, after that. Just caught the hip, it seemed almost, of Gavin Coombs. But the opportunity now for JJ Hanrahan to get the first points of the second half on the board, as he did in the first with a penalty from a not dissimilar distance at the other end. Good contact, lovely connection, plenty of conviction behind it, and that's the sign of a 10 in confident mood from the kicking tee. Galvanised, no doubt, by that incredible performance away to Clermont-Auvergne. 24 points.
Absolutely, and as it just pushes out the lead to 10 points now, and you feel this really is an important 10-minute period of the game, with Munster starting to really exert some pressure, both in terms of possession but on the scoreboard too.
Use it! Inside.
Building that scoreboard pressure, playing the percentages, as we keep saying. It's not pretty.
Well, exactly as you say, playing the percentages there. They're deep in their 22, kick the ball to compete. Tough night, tough conditions, bit of wind, bit of rain, slippery ball. Perfect outcome from Munster there. Gained about 30 metres and retained possession 10 metres outside in their own half. But I think today now, Conor Murray's box kicking has been absolutely on point on every occasion. On these kind of nights and occasions, you really kind of see the true value of someone like Conor Murray in your team.
So interestingly, Paul Boyle has come in and gone to number 8. Good to see him back in Connacht ranks. unfortunate as it is for Sean O'Brien, who, as Michael was saying, he's just had a torturous time over the last couple of years with injury.
Excuse me, no discussion.
Basically out of the game for 2 years. He made a brief comeback in November of 2019, I think it was, for 3 or 4 minutes in the game against Leinster, and was out for a further 12 months thereafter.
Yeah, and even in my playing time with him, he had a couple of injuries as well, but they persevered with him, and for good reason. He's an excellent player who could have a big future if he can stay injury free. But on Paul Boyle, he's been a great player for Connacht this year. I think he even scored a hat-trick in one game against Treviso, and he'll bring something different to the team.
No. No hook. Excellent, brilliant. No hook.
And as we say, the scrum's been pretty messy all night, and on this occasion, quite unusual to see.
Yeah,
there was no hook.
No hook.
Well, I thought, well, on the images there was a hook, but
good answer, right? Let's go.
That was a pretty strange decision.
Frank Murphy was over on the far side, so you assume it came from the AR on the near side, but
that was a particular strange decision there.
We got stability. That's what I want, right?
Unless his viewing angle was obstructed, but it didn't seem that way from here. But gives opportunity now for Connacht to try and build some possession and build some momentum. And we'll probably be seeing the likes of Tom Daly or Sammy Arnold hitting the ball up again as they did in the first half.
Stay square, Munster.
Yeah, they need to get this back line moving.
Advantage.
Scrum was wheeling round. Penalty advantage coming here.
That's a knock on the ground. Munster sidestepping.
13-3 is by no means easy if Jack Harty does fancy. And what's the decision here? Is he going to pop this into the corner? Yep, he is.
I think that's the third occasion that Munster have been penalised for sidestepping in the scrum, not binding straight and wheeling the ball round.
Yeah.
But the scrum has been a pretty messy area the whole night, really.
Yeah, it has.
But look, Connacht won't mind that 1 iota. They have an opportunity now to try and build some pressure.
Feels like a big moment in the game for Delahunt to try and hit his targets. He goes all the way towards the tail. Wycherley was close to getting hands on.
Tackle!
Ultan Dillane, good carry again from him. Taken on once again by Masterson. Buckley there to protect him. They go out to Paul Ball now. Can he bring his influence to bear, having come off the bench for O'Brien? Clear out needs to be good here. Connacht need to get their bullets there. Do Munster have hands on? Ball is still there for the home team.
Got back. No
Boyle again. I thought he was excellent in the game away in France against Racing in the Champions Cup in round 1. Caelan Blade. Tackle coming in from Cronin. All hands to the pump back there now for Munster.
Yes.
Dillane had to reach for it. Good line speed from Kevin O'Byrne. Almost made the tackle. Ball is loose. And Blade, Buckley now. Oh, he's up against Dealande and Peter O'Mahony. And Tagburn. Yeah, it's 2 really important turnovers in that jackal position. He's so good in terms of the timing and the latch on the ball.
Yeah, and leading up to it was quite good play. Some abrasive running by Ultan Dillane and Paul Ball trying to exert some pressure into the game. But unfortunately there, Dennis Buckley, for all his scrumming prowess, sometimes, he's not the biggest guy on the pitch, and sometimes he can get caught carrying the ball, gets turned over. He's not the biggest man in the world, and Tagburn.
That one he was
but a great support angle there. Dealande did all the pressure.
What's that?
And then Byrne came over to steal the ball.
Ready to go?
Unfortunately from Connacht there, I think it was just Shane Delahunt in the position to clear over, and getting caught short there. There's probably no excuses. But a great take by Dillane at the tail of the line out, which I thought Munster might have just almost stolen.
Yeah, Wycherley was close, and having won the turnover, Tagburn is the target at Munster line out time. Hands and knee stuff from CJ Stander. Dealande then in the line, and Healy looking to see where Shane Daly was. Advantage here for Munster. A late tackle, I think it was on JJ Hanrahan. couple of changes in the offing, I think, for Munster. Activity on the far side as they look to freshen things up, but they're in possession here, knowing they have the advantage.
13, late tackle.
And we're seeing the big difference, I feel, is in first phase. When Dialande gets the ball, or Stander, they're getting over the gain line, they're getting fast forwards, putting hand on the front foot, which means the wraparound defence from Connacht is never going to be in a north position. They're always kind of going at a lateral angle. Whereas Tom Daly, Sammy Arnold, when they're taking the ball up, it's just taking an extra second to free up the ball, which obviously allows the Munster defence to become more aggressive, and we can see what happens in the first half.
Take your time with him, lads.
Haven't seen too much from Ben O'Donnell on his first start in Connacht colours. They've had to wait to get him involved. He was brought here with a serious knee injury, but Andy Friend certainly felt that the investment was worth the wait, and he knows him from the Sevens game down in Australia. Yeah, Mike Haley just landed on him, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we talk about the energy that you need in Sevens and being a good exponent, and the transition to 15s. Okay. It's obviously quite a difficult transition to almost a completely different game, but we see his Aussie compatriot John Porch, who's really made the 15 shirt his own this season, and it's been outstanding from Connacht, and arguably one of the players of the season for them. And what I'm hearing is that Ben O'Donnell has been pretty strong in training, but unfortunately it seems that's going to curtail the first start for him in a Connacht jersey. I think Peter Sullivan's coming on for him now.
Give numbers to Munster.
Really unfortunate, beset by injuries.
Just wait for me.
Peter Sullivan is in, wearing 23 for Connacht.
Just wait.
First week in a few weeks that Andy Friend has said, look, they got a clean bill of health in terms of testing and no disruptions there, but having to cope with injuries tonight to key personnel. Sean O'Brien, let's hope that's just a HIA and he may pass the return to play protocols. Concern too now for O'Donnell. Dave Heffernan, by the way, is in, and further change in the front row. Dennis Buckley off, so Matthew Burke is in.
No problem, play on.
Turnover ball here from inside their 22. Half charge down though, and it only gets as far as Shane Daly now. And he put some footwork on it where the game been bereft of real line breaks. Not that sort of evening. Tadhg who's been a central character tonight, a little bit deeper to try and create some space for Haley. Oh, really good offload, and then O'Mahony gets away with one that went backwards off JJ Hanrahan's pass. 10 looking to improvise for Munster and manufacture something. Taken on by Stephen Archer. Back against the green they come to Gavin Coombs. Tadhg from a standing start tries to pump the legs, can't quite get past Heffernan. CJ Stander to O'Byrne, and now Keith Earls with a little bit of open country just to accelerate through the gears and push the pedal. That's better. Quick ball to try and give Wycherley a chance to puncture a hole. Ball's loose on the floor. Connacht diving in there to try and get bodies on and affect the turnover. And he's going to come back on that Connacht side with Porch. Bides his time and waits for Caelan Blade. Deep in the pocket is Carty. That's a good looking clearance kick, really good from the Connacht 10. They need every yard and inch they can get.
Good kick by Jack Carty, but that 1 minute of play there from Munster really encapsulates how they're trying to play now. You know, the likes of Tadhg getting more and more into the game. Kevin O'Byrne as well with some lovely kind of soft hands, just dragging in the defender, making eye contact and just pulling it back and just making the Connacht defence ask questions at all times, as we see Chris Farrell with another barraging run and kind of getting over the gain line.
Now O'Byrne what's the option here? They went to the front to O'Mahony. It wasn't clean. Good contest in the air. Back on the Connacht side, and 13 points to 3, 53 minutes here. You feel that Connacht need to get a score to try and swing the pendulum, turn the momentum back in their favour.
Yeah, on that occasion Munster just kind of went for a a throw jump option with Peter Romani, and unfortunately just kind of slipped out of his hands. And Daly just dragging the ball down there to try and put some pressure on the Munster line out, as we see some changes being made.
Yeah, a couple in the front row for Munster, and Niall Scannell coming in.
That's a good contest.
Keenan Knox also. Finlay Bealham has gone off, by the way, so Dominic Robertson McCoy is in on the Connacht side.
Yeah, and he had as we said before, he had a big game last week against Leinster, so he'll have a point to prove, thinking he should have been selected from the start tonight.
Stay half.
Straight to work for Niall Scannell. Munster on the defensive all the way towards the tail, and Wycherley well collected. The Skibbereen man. Scannell tucked in there. Conor Murray now just tries to disguise a little dink through. No, it's good play from Peter O'Sullivan. He was looking second best. And in saying that, in that close contact area, Munster have turned it over. Oh, there was potential there if they could move that ball quickly.
There was potential there if he just could shift the ball outside, but fantastic pressure from Connacht and results in a turnover. But again, lovely play.
Substitutions, please.
Lovely play from Conor Murray there. He just kind of had that extra second. He assessed the situation and just dinked the ball along the ground, knowing that the Connacht player would have to field it. Intelligent play from Conor Murray.
8.
Yes, Nick McCarthy, by the way, is the replacement scrum half. No Craig Casey tonight on the Munster bench. He's been ever present pretty much all season, and I think Keelan Blade is going off. So yeah, Kieran Marmion is in with us.
To set. He's controlled it.
Yeah, and Gavin Thornbury on for Alton Delan, who had a good game in the tight. But Gavin Thornbury, another member of the Connacht team, who had an outstanding game last week and probably would have wanted to start tonight as well. As with Kieran Marmion on what a substitution to have at scrum half as well, to add some fresh legs.
Use it, Kieran.
Protected at the base by Paul Boyle, and Marmion comes away. Again, the boot is the option. Has it been measured well? Well, it's going to be another test of that line out.
And interestingly, Alton Delan's actually moved to 6 to blindside, so they've got 3 real line-out options in attack and in defence now, and we'll try and put a huge amount of pressure on this Munster line-out.
Come in, please. Tell them the numbers, please. 4, lads. 4.
Shortened line-out on their own 5-metre line. Thornbury poised to go up at the front against O'Mahony. Will they go for Tagburn at the tail? They do, and he's done that really well. Had to be absolutely spot on under so much pressure. Plenty of movement with a couple of pods in there. Can they affect an exit from this situation?
Stay.
They're managing Munster to keep Connacht at arm's length for now at least. And that bounce actually is somehow managed to stay in field, and the net result of all of that is that Munster will have the throw to the line out. But that ball looked absolutely destined for touch, and they were going to be right on their own 22 with a Connacht throw.
Yeah, time kind of stopped there. Everyone was anticipating the ball. But it was a good foot inside.
They didn't get a home bounce at all there, did they, Connacht? Scannell to the front to Tagburn. He's been really good in everything he's done this evening.
Use it!
On that occasion, that was a good sack from Connacht. Pulled it down at source, which is legal.
Heffernan in there, but Munster just...
Use it! As we are.
Huge in there now to control the game. Good height on that from Conor Murray. Difficult one to take. That's brilliantly dealt with in the air. But how quickly Munster swarm around the player, and this time it's Gavin Coombs, where previously it's been Tagburn, but that's good from the blindside flanker.
And Munster, why would they? They're not going away. They're not going away anywhere from their game plan, keeping it tight. Conor Murray again with an excellent kick to compete, put pressure, numbers in defence, turnover. How many times have we said that tonight now?
Yeah.
And it just gives Munster an opportunity, although missing touch there.
A little bit of a let-off for now. Fielded by O'Mahony to his fullback Healy, who's been itching to find a little bit of space tonight. Managed to get away from Thornbury. Can't quite get away from Matthew Burke though.
Use it!
Again, good carry from Tyburn, doing the hard yards that some people wouldn't appreciate, but really has put himself to the fore tonight.
Timing looked good there.
Timing looked good. It was very, very close. Shane Daly on John Porch. Porch has been good under the high ball. It was well timed by Daly, confirmed by Brian McNeice.
And that's better by Carty. For once he's managed to find touch and to put a little bit more pressure and a bit more time to get the ball.
Yeah, happy Chris.
Difficult one for Wooten over on that far side, but referee's assistant Chris Busby communicating to Frank Murphy he was happy that Wooten could continue. Now is there space in behind? Backfield coverage has been good. Daly's so aware.
Yes, stay.
Straight down the middle this time.
Good.
Time for Healy to measure his kick. And that'll do from a Munster point of view as we tick towards the final quarter, still leading by those 10 points.
And as we said now, as you said, 10-point lead from Munster, and if we're honest, Connacht don't really look like scoring at the moment. They need to find a spark from whether that be through someone or something, some play or some kind of penalty to get in some kind of territory, because at the moment Munster are just kind of lapping up in defence anything that Connacht throws at them.
And so often the genesis of that spark is Bundy Aki. He of course is not available this evening. It's exactly the type of game he would relish, and they're missing him badly, and they are being bossed at the breakdown at times.
Clearly lifted.
Munster very effective in that area.
Clearly lifted.
Yeah, and do you know what? The damage was done on the previous rock to that. Once again, we saw the difference in the two teams tonight.
Yeah.
Connacht, whenever they're going in with first phase attack, the ball is slow. It just slows everything up. Everyone's in a certain position for the next play, anticipating it to be a quick ball. And when it's not, you have to readjust your timings, your position. And the result in that was that it was a bad carry by McCoy, and resulted in another turnover.
Get me a line there.
Sorry, it was a Quinn ruining, but CJ Stander in such a strong position, really strong core, and there's no shifting him when he's had that amount of time to get into position.
O'Mahony this time out the back from Stander to Niall Scannell. The little switch pass from Dealande to Conor Murray. Oh, that's really nice strike play move into Keith Earls. Now can they follow it up with the secondary possession? Farrell. All of a sudden Munster find themselves up to that 22 with really nice combination play. Line from Keith Earls coming back on the angle was lovely. Now Conor Murray smashed into Gavin Coombs. Tyburn this time the decoy, and two forwards combine, and again they're making 2 or 3 metres. It's slow steady progress, but is there going to be an end product? Half a dozen phases. CJ Stander on the last carry. That's courageous from JJ Hanrahan. Manages to keep hold of possession. Scannell.
Almost.
And now everything slows down a fraction, and Coombs, look at that physicality. It's Bolton, Delan and Thornbury. O'Mahony pops one off to Farrell, the two 13s together. Sammy Arnold going in.
Tackler not rolling.
Connacht have got a player on the floor that can't get himself out of position. It's a penalty advantage. The cross-field kick is hanging in the air.
Backwards.
Keith Earls has knocked it back. Back we go for the penalty. It looked pretty ominous there for Connacht. Munster were really threatening.
Time off.
Just fantastic intensity from Munster in attack there. Just blown anything that was in their way, clearing up the channels. The pick and goes. And that, just as I said, encapsulates probably the game really there at the moment. The difference in intensity, the speed of rock
on the line,
compared to Connacht, which is 1 or 2 seconds slower on every occasion. And you see Munster doing it in defence, and we see there that they're clearly doing it in attack there, that intensity, that breakdown, as we said. Big tackle from Alton to Lan. He does that on numerous occasions.
Time is off. All I'm asking is not to react in that manner, okay? Understand? Please, going forward,
the
no more.
two outside centres together as well. Josh Wycherley, by the way, is in. James Cronin has gone off for Munster.
It's a PK for not rolling. Just need you all on the line before I restart.
What do they do?
I'm not sure yet. I need you. When you're on the line, I put time on and ask.
It's really difficult for Marmion to try and get himself in the correct position under that to even contest with Keith Earls.
Okay. Roll away.
I think he's going to be okay.
It's 13, I think, or 2, I'm not sure.
Absolutely, and I think Munster
was in the way.
Wisely going for the
shot call, lads. Connacht on the line
for the 3 points.
Yeah, leading the turnover count, ahead in terms of tackles made, behind in terms of tackles missed, which helps also. But yeah, in terms of the context of the conference, it's a 8-point swing, I suppose. No need really to go for the bonus point. They came into this 8 points in front at the top, and 4 will do very nicely. No mistake whatsoever from JJ Hanrahan. The simplest of tasks set up by a nice attacking phase of play. We haven't seen too much of it, but they're doing it the hard way, but they're going about their business very effectively, to be fair to Munster.
Yeah, it's really been a night for the forwards, and as the game has got longer, CJ Stander is really coming more and more into the fore into this game, and he's leading the way in carries and leading the way in metres made.
Right on cue.
Outside.
Tackle another 4 or 5 metres there.
Outside. Outside, use it.
Ben Healy in for JJ Hanrahan, who has departed having kicked that latest penalty. Time for Porch. He makes that look so easy, so natural and composed under the high ball. Marmion, who seems to be absolutely fine after that clash with Keith Earls, happy to continue. Sloppy ball for Carty, who has to go backwards to try and come forwards and run straight into Finian Wycherley. Marmion now gets it away to Paul Boyle. And still plenty of aggression left in this Munster side with 16 or 17 minutes remaining.
Huge tackle by Dialande once again on Paul Boyle.
Out the back from Daly. Is there any little space in that corridor for Jack Carty? And again, they're happy just with very few options to kick in behind and try and challenge at line-out time. 2 or 3 times we've seen that option from Daly.
Yeah, and once again, look, you know, they've managed to gain again 20 metres and putting pressure again on the Munster line-out, but the Munster line-out has been fairly effective tonight, and they're giving away possession in a game that they're 13 points down, and once again, their systems, their plays, their set plays just aren't clicking tonight, and a huge credit has to go to Munster's aggressive defence, especially in the outer limits there with Dialande leading the way in the outer channel.
Play on, all backwards.
Well, maybe it's not the worst option. It is almost an admission of defeat in terms of trying to get through that initial Munster defensive line to kick it in behind, but they are getting a little bit of return at line-out time against the throw, and they've won this back. Paul Boyle has been excellent since his introduction off that bench. Carty to Daly. Sammy Arnold now straightens into the tackle, into Dialande. It's been lost again.
Number 12's taking the space, preventing a fair contest.
In the end, though, Connacht get the decision. Sigh of relief. They thought they'd lost it again.
Yeah, absolutely, and you do feel, as we said, because of the Connacht attack probably not being in its full force tonight. The only way they're going to get back into this game is through mistakes from the Munster team and a couple of penalties, and all of a sudden it gives them an opportunity
6 red, please,
to try and get something going in the game from a line out.
Where you are in your front man, Munster. Discipline here, please.
Billy Holland is in. Further changes off that Munster bench. Here's the delivery from Touch and Quinru, the target. Can Connacht get some kind of cohesion?
Advantage, knock on block.
No, the handling goes against them, and they've spilled it forward in there.
Use it.
Disappointing for Andy Friend and Connacht. They just haven't managed to
Make
click.
Sure
and
someone's behind 10, please.
That's a huge turnover there. Albeit only from a knock-on.
Stay 19.
That's a huge boot from Ben Healy. He's only on the pitch a matter of 2 minutes. First real piece of duty, and he's thumped that down the far touchline.
Yeah, that was impressive, wasn't it? First touch, tight on the channel, and as you said, managed to find 40 metres. But that was hugely disappointing from Connacht. You know, they're not going to get too many opportunities in this particular area of the pitch. And yes, that was a knock-on, but that comes from, you know, whether that's sloppy play from Connacht or that's aggressive play from Munster. We'll never know exactly how that ball kind of spilled inside, but that might have been a Munster player managed to make a nuisance of himself and forces a turnover with 15 minutes to go, even though it's only a 13-point game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, in terms of who's controlled this game, you know, you have to say Munster have been completely on top for most of the periods of this game. And Connacht aren't going to get too many opportunities.
You felt he was held in. You
just that one penalty to speak of from Jack Harty so far. It's been this kind of game. Collisions all over the pitch and lots of heavy lifting from the packs of forwards.
I'm looking forward to seeing Ben Healy now in the last 15 minutes of the game. Obviously, you know, he's in the times that he has played this year for Munster, he's been fairly impressive in what he's been doing. Obviously got those couple of bangs against Quins, put them out for a few weeks.
Red on the line.
But a great asset to have now
on the line
in the last couple of months of the Pro 14 season.
Yes, and coming on here alongside Conor Murray, of course, so accustomed to playing with Craig Casey at number 9 inside him, but he has proved adept at closing out games as well. A player who's maturing with every passing performance. Now, it feels like this is prime time for Connacht to show a little bit of fight and ingenuity and get something on the board here, otherwise fairly ominous. They really have to try and go for the jugular. They need a win tonight. They're going to get a penalty and an opportunity to go to the corner again or close to it.
Tackler is not. 18, roll away.
Yeah, and Munster are their own worst enemies, really. It's the only way Connacht seem to be getting back into this game are from, as we said, from the penalty errors from Munster. And on that occasion, I don't think it was Wycherley was fine, but it was
I need you out of that space.
I'm not sure who it was. I think it might have been Keenan Knox there, not rolling away and allowing Connacht another opportunity to try and build a score.
Rory Scannell ready to come in. Now, what is the option here? Marmion, and they look for Sammy Arnold this time. It's been Daly on lots of previous occasions. No tackler release on that occasion. Gavin Thornbury now, can he steal a yard or two? Try and get some momentum going forward. Matthew Burt now, but again, Dale Andy, he's such a physical presence in there. Just attack after attack, whether it's Stander, Dale Andy or others. It's been snuffed out at source. No room at all. Even the feet of Porch, well, momentarily around Farrell, but still we're playing with penalty advantage for Connacht.
No advantage there, guys.
Yeah, the strength of Dialande there again.
Up and away.
You know, his ability to make a massive tackle, but then to follow up there.
Captain.
You know, he very rarely goes on the ground after it, which makes himself a big nuisance afterwards.
Okay. Just going to be penalties in around the tackle and the breakdown. If I get another one, someone may leave the pitch. Discipline.
Yeah, it's just a ticking off because in reality it's 16-3 with 12 or 13 minutes left now.
No
Munster know there's no real tariff attached to penalties. 3 points are no good for Connacht, really.
Scrum down. Scrum down.
But just another example of, you know, on this occasion obviously illegally, but at every breakdown Connacht are having to fight for every single ruck. And after a while that can be absolutely draining. And Munster feed off that on every occasion, and the likes of Dialande and Byrne and Stander just sensing something's on offer every time.
Perfect, lads. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Last 2 scrums, that's
no,
excellent.
this is an interesting call,
please.
and interesting to see how they set up here, because effectively Connacht just trying to suck in as many of that Munster pack of forwards and striking the wider channels off this set piece in front of the posts. They've made little or no impression with ball in hand up against that 13-man defensive line.
Bind! Set!
John Porch right behind the scrum. Tom Daly this way as well. Paul Boyle breaks off.
Tackle!
O'Mahony was quickly
Release.
out into that channel as well to snuff out the threat. Now Quinn Rue and Ultan Delan together.
Again, slow ball though.
Yeah.
Trapped in by Black.
Conor Oliver. Marmion now. Sammy Arnold are pretty well numbered up as it's taken through by Peter Sullivan. Robertson McCoy up against Finnan Wycherley. Gavin Thornbury.
Stay here.
Marmion. No, is there a little bit of space? There was a appeal for crossing. Marginal, not sure it was. Referee happy to continue. Marmion too, but look at Munster just forcing Connacht back yard by yard, inch by inch. And they go again with Heffernan. Can't afford any mistakes or handling errors. They seem to absolutely need to strike now with a 7-pointer to have any chance. And just as I say that, the rain comes teeming down out of the grey night sky, not making things any easier whatsoever. A little over 10 minutes remaining for Connacht to try and salvage something here. And Jack Carty snared by Niall Scannell. Carty didn't really seem to have too much of an option. Daly, all of a sudden Connacht are back well outside the 22, and that's audacious in the extreme from Arnold, but it pays off for now. Deolande counter-rucking from Farrell.
Ball is out.
Ball is out, and who will win the collision on the floor? And that was a fair effort from Matthew Burke. He rescued the situation, but Deolande and Tadhg Chris Farrell have used their ballast and brawn all night to make things so tricky for Connacht. And just as I say that, Byrne was poised to be over the ball again. Delan has given it every effort.
Counter is good.
15 phases, but they're not really getting anywhere, and they're just about to surrender possession. Ball just hit a boot and came back on the Connacht side. There for Carty. Daly's going to kick again. And on the bounce, and this time the difference is it's been carried into touch by Healy. So
yeah, and that was actually it's clever play by Daly. He could just sense that Connacht just were not going anywhere, and you just almost thought it was inevitable if they were going to keep holding the ball that a turnover was going to happen.
No, they've given the push just before that, haven't they?
Time off, 11 red.
Shane Daly is going off.
But yeah, just again, Deolande.
Time is off.
What a defensive effort he's shown tonight.
TMO came in with a push off the ball from your 11 on 14.
Confirmation of that.
11, is it?
Yes, swish, and
yes.
It was a push by Alex Wooten, which Brian McNeice, the TMO, is adjudged. And you'll see it again here, just on the right-hand side. There you go.
On this guy who's down.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the meltdown, a brain meltdown there. There's absolutely no reason why he should do that, and you're just not going to get away with it with the TMO. Sorry, the assistant referee there, following him along on the sidelines. But as I said before, it was almost a sense of inevitability there with the defence by Connacht, and even there, even there, Conor Murray.
Yeah,
probably not even known for his kind of keeping the attacker up in the air, but showing great strength there. And as I said, they're all feeding off each other tonight, pushing each other out of the line, making tackle after tackle, and just making an absolute nuisance at the breakdown on every occasion. And Connacht just can't get a foothold in the game.
Connacht on the line. Numbers, please, Munster.
And on a night like this, in the conditions, you maybe felt that someone like Adrian Papali'i, the signing for Connacht, the big number 8, in these kind of conditions, may have given them some of the gain line that they need. And obviously, we can't forget Bundy Aki in that equation too.
Stay bound.
Yeah, it's just for that energy and aggression and drive and belligerence. It's been a I wouldn't call it a flat performance from Connacht, because they've not been given too many entry points into the game. They've been snuffed out of it by a very savvy Munster team, full of experience, and now played the conditions. And something that Connacht have added to their repertoire in the last year or so is taking on big teams, the like of Racine away, and even when Pat Lamb's Bristol Bears came here, they stood up to the physical challenge, and they were so physical last week at the RDS. But Munster have been very, very good in that department tonight.
Advantage, knock on.
Tadhg Beirne has been excellent. Farrell too, Dialende.
And once again, Conor Murray putting his buddy in the tackle, making a big hit. As I said, it's almost like he's just feeding off everyone else in the team. Everyone is just so hungry to make tackles tonight. It's such an impressive performance in the tight.
Let's go, guys, please.
And when I say in the tight, I'm including the backs here from Munster.
Here we
the
are.
likes of Dialende, as we said, has just been immense.
Let's go again, please.
The guy you see on the screen as well, Tadhg Beirne.
Yeah, fully deserving of that accolade. Guinness Player of the Match.
Absolutely, and if you look at the statistics, you know, he may not have carried the most tonight, but when he was asked to, he'd do those hard yards that other players and his fellow peers really appreciate, getting over the gain line, making those hard yards, and obviously we know what he can do, his attributes in the turnovers.
Yeah, a couple of key turnovers. The Munster team happy to be back out on the field after a couple of weeks off, really, after the postponement of that Leinster match. Most of these players haven't played since the Claremont game.
All backwards.
Half an opportunity, but Mike Haley is there.
And just talking about Tadhg Beirne again, what we didn't mention there is also he's been an excellent distributor for the team tonight. You know, actually reminds me a lot of when Connacht won the league with Ali Muldowney in that kind of central pivot position. I know it's different systems, but you know, he seems to be the go-to man right now to be making the decisions whether to carry the ball, to pop it onto his next attacker, or pull the ball back. And you know, he's really showing an excellent skill set in that department.
A nice reminder of brighter days in the Connacht shirts on a fairly bleak night in Galway, when Connacht ultimately are not able to follow up last week's performance against Leinster at the RDS here against Munster, their conference rivals, who are going to strengthen their grip on a place in the final on March the 27th, it seems, unless there is a spectacular turnaround here. But it seems beyond Connacht now. They haven't really threatened.
No, and that's Billy Holland making an impact there. But even the line out from Connacht there, everything just seemed a little bit lethargic. The lift, the throw wasn't quick enough. It just, you know, that. And once again, they're going into an area with Peter O'Mahony there. They're competing, and some of the decision making tonight from the calling. Look, calling lineouts isn't an easy task. There's a lot of things going on in the caller's head and scenarios thrown at him.
Same discipline.
But on that occasion, they just needed to win the ball somehow, just make it happen. And unfortunately, they couldn't on that occasion. And we've said that too many times tonight.
Crouch. Bind. Set.
And let's not forget that Munster have enjoyed the better rub of the green in these fixtures. Connacht haven't beaten their interprovincial rivals since a game in Galway in October 2017. It's going to be 6 consecutive wins against the Westerners for Munster, it seems, tonight.
Not out.
Keith Earls, look at that aggression, 76 minutes in terms of the counter ruck from the Ireland and Munster winger, and he's still in there in the thick of the fight. All the while, Peter O'Mahony and Sammy Arnold were being reacquainted right of picture, well away from the ball.
But how many times have we seen that tonight? Jack Carty receives the ball from a pullback pass, and his only option is to go back on himself because he's just got no options.
Turnover is good. You can't continue to hold on to it on the ground, though.
And that all comes from Munster pressure. Ball not coming back as quick. Aggressive Munster defensive line.
They are in a warning. They're not going to send him for that. Okay, he won the ball and then got turned over on the ground. Pete. They're not going to sin in it.
It's rinse and repeat in terms of pump it down the line and try and trust your line out to get some kind of ball.
You okay? Do you want to continue?
And looking at it's 13-point difference. Connacht need to get something, They need to get a try from somewhere. And you just, at the moment, if you're honest, you can't see it happening. But look, there's 3 minutes on the clock. Anything can happen, but at the moment, Munster are just feeding on this and almost giving the ball to Connacht and saying, look, do what you want to do with it. We trust our D tonight that you're not going to get through us. We're enjoying defending so much from 1 to 15, and then also the guys who've come on.
He's been good tonight as well, Peter O'Mahony, and interesting to see the continuity in terms of that back row triumvirate of Gavin Coombs, Peter O'Mahony and CJ Stander. And you wondered when Gavin Coombs was so electrifying in the Guinness Pro 14 when Stander and O'Mahony were away on Ireland, Judy, just how they were going to accommodate Coombs. They had to find a berth for him, and they've seemed to stuck with this combination of Coombs at 6, O'Mahony on the open side and Stander at 8.
Yeah, and Coombs, and both in terms of defence and attack, I think he's got 12 carries today, and in defence he's got 14 tackles, and he's second just behind Diolande with 16. So an all-action kind of number 6, which is what you want, and plus he's a good lineup option as well.
He knows his way to the try line, doesn't he? 9 tries in Munster shirts, 7 of them in this season alone. He's only played 25 games. It's pretty impressive.
No clear release. 23. Yellow card.
That's
multiple infringements. No
one too many. So Rory Scannell will see out the remainder of the game in the sin bin.
Yeah, and to be fair, Frank Murphy did tell Peter O'Mahony that the next kind of penalty offence, that was going to be the result.
Perfect.
Yeah, Scannell being in the tackle, and deemed to be playing the ball when he was off his feet. Seemed a fair enough call there.
Conor Oliver to Kieran Marmion, and still they come looking. Tom Daly, Marmion again, Robertson, McCoy and Burke in there on his shoulder. Can they find a way through? 2 minutes to go. Can they find a losing bonus point? Who knows how important potentially that might prove to be. Different kind of picture with only one team qualifying. They must score here. Surely 2 on the outside. Porch just shuffles it out, and in goes Peter Sullivan. And well, look at this. They've had to work until the 79th minute of the game to find any sliver of space whatsoever against this resolute rearguard from Munster. But in the end, with almost the final play of the game, Peter Sullivan does just that, and it's going to be a hell of a conversion attempt for a losing bonus point.
Yeah, and it all kind of started from Kieran Marmion just sniping and asking questions at the fringe. And he's done pretty well since he came on, and just a simple kind of passing the ball along the hands. Porch to O'Sullivan, and Healy just wasn't in a position to stop him. A couple of strong carries as well from McCoy, Robertson McCoy as well, that just got him into the position.
Don't come much more difficult than this. That is absolutely beautiful from Jack Carty. Really struck that so perfectly, and it will mean ultimately surely that Connacht will get something from this game.
So from a position of 78 minutes, when we couldn't really see Connacht being able to score any tries. They've scored one now, and all of a sudden
let's go, please.
They have a very slim opportunity to try and potentially win this game, but it's going to be asking a lot. A, the conditions aren't very favourable, and B, we've seen how strong the Munster defence has been for 78 minutes of the game.
Ben Healy, they couldn't possibly, could they? From deep inside their own 22, they've got to start with a clean receipt of the kickoff, and Daly does that. Marmion, you just never know. That's a high shot.
Down.
It was
He's clearly
tight burn on Jack Carty.
High tackle only.
No malice in it.
And we're just thinking probably the only opportunity that Connacht could go was through a penalty to try and get some yardage, and that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah, he's measured that well, Carty.
And going to no probably surprise here that I can't really see the ball going out too far wide to the backs here. I think the forwards might try and keep it tight here and look for another penalty resulting from a maul.
So Heffernan. Good take from Delan. And here they go with Daly running straight at Ben Healy. Stander was there. Heffernan now. And here they are, 5 or 6 metres outside that Munster 22. And they have to be so careful in terms of their execution here and their support.
There were shouts of a high tackle there, but I couldn't see it myself. And no arm has been put out by Frank Murphy.
And that was a risky play.
Who's it?
Back inside towards Wooten from Marmion. Oh, Delan, he's done really well. Farrell misses his tackle. Here they go again. Carty, is there a way through? 2 tries last week against Leinster. It would be almost more spectacular if he could rescue this situation. Oh, brilliant tip on. Sullivan now, can he get through? Wooten on the outside. Alarm bells ringing in the Munster rearguard. They were almost through. Carty goes for one of those crossfield kicks, unorthodox to Alton Delan. Up against Healy. Delan, and he gets away from Healy. Outrageous stuff from the Ireland second row, and they carry it on again. Paul Boyle, could they possibly steal it here? Penalty advantage. No release of the tackle. And you know what? Frank Murphy might have another decision to make here. That's going to be 2 players in the bin, I think. Rory Scannell already there, but goodness me, Carty to Delan, absolute hearts and mouth stuff from Connacht, and they're down 2 players. Nick McCarthy is off.
But from out of nowhere, it was a fantastic set of hands along the left-hand side. For a second we thought O'Sullivan was in. Carty with a crossfield kick and Delan almost scoring, and from out of nowhere the game has come alive in the last 3 minutes of the game, and all of a sudden we're presented with Munster with down to 13 men.
On the break on the tackle. That's another. You're already on a warning and tackle and break there. Yellow card, an injury. Yellow card again. Nothing changes. I need discipline around that area.
Back around halfway. Well, we had written them off time and time again. And this was sensational stuff, and Sullivan through the gap and Wooten there. If he had his time back, would he have given Wooten a run there? Who knows? This was brilliant from Delan. That's absolutely class from the second row.
Yeah, it was fantastic play, right foot step. Beats Healy. Again, through the tackle, and you know, it's his brace of best, and managed to set the ball up. But wow, what an end to the game. And as we said, we weren't expecting this with 77 minutes gone. But Connacht are now in a really strong position.
And they're going to take a scrum, which is, you know what, absolutely all on the line here. The ramifications for this entire conference in the next couple of minutes here against 13 players, if Connacht can somehow manage to pinch this, are incredible.
Well, with 2 players down, interesting to see how Munster will set up in the scrum here. How many they'll put in. They're going for 7.
Yeah.
So Connacht will try and fancy themselves here.
Bind.
To keep it tight, perhaps.
Set. Stay back now, 9. Stay back.
Again, Porch is directly behind the scrum. Boyle there controlling Marmion. Will it be Sammy Orrell? Will it be Daly? Will they come the other way? Munster swarming in. Was that the best option? 85th minute now. 15 against 13, 16 points to 10. Connacht have come back from absolutely nowhere. Delan. Oh, did he knock that on? There's so much chat in the ear of Frank Murphy.
Tackle.
Marmion wants the forwards up quicker. Get some momentum, get some speed and drive, and that's a little bit better. Oliver is in there and all the big units too. Right in front of those posts. Ball is slow coming back. And that's better. Good driving forward. Marmion, they've got space potentially. Carty under pressure now. Tagburn is in there. Ball is out. Kieran Marmion tries to grasp on it. All the work of Tagburn there, and he's done enough. Oh, that's brilliant defence, because Connacht looked as though they might just get one more chance, and then Tagburn went in on a mission to try and clear that out and steal it back on the Munster side, and he has done enough to see Munster over the line. Goodness me, what a finish to the game in Galway. Huge credit to Connacht, who were second best for, well, 78 minutes of the game, and somehow found a way to the try line with that Peter Sullivan score, converted brilliantly for Jack Carty. Ultimately they get a losing bonus point, and it's Munster, top of the conference, who stretched their advantage. They had to hang on at the very end. What a finish. The final score in Galway: Connacht 10, Munster 16. As we just pause for breath, Michael, what a finish. And really there was a chance there for Connacht right at the very end. Ball got a little bit loose, but there was space on this near side.
Absolutely, and who would have thought it, as we said, with 77 minutes gone, 78 minutes, you know, Munster controlled this game for most of that period. But out of nowhere, Connacht were in a position to win the game. And, you know, first things first, we talk about that scrum quickly. That was a great, you know, defensive set from Munster in the scrum. First of all, a player down to hold them off, and then, you know, to have that the strength in defence there to hold Connacht up. Maybe from Connacht's perspective, we would like to see a little more maybe inventiveness there in attack, considering they're against 13 men, which were never really threatened. But a fantastic performance from Munster in defence, and you have to say, on the whole course of events for the whole 80 minutes, worthy champions. But Connacht will be kicking themselves at the end there.
Yes, that was an opportunity for a real snatch and grab at home, and Andy Friend has spoken all season about a necessity to win 90% plus of their home games. They've had a few really good away wins tonight, and well, it would have been very interesting to read the write-ups had they managed to pinch that, but they had the opportunity. But Munster, right through the team, so many of their big players were so good. You shot of Dialande there, he was so strong in defence. Chris Farrell was good, and wasn't it perhaps fitting that Tagburn, the Guinness player of the match, from whom we'll hear quite shortly with Marcus Horan, that ultimately it was his presence around the breakdown when the ball came anyway loose there. He forced the turnover really at the very, very end. But in the final analysis, it's going to mean that it's a long, long way back for Connacht now in terms of their outside chances of trying to make it through to that top spot that guarantees the playoff final on March the 27th. And they still have to go to the Scarlets, and Munster will feel that that is a big 4 points.
Absolutely, and I think it was a real masterclass tonight from Munster in the conditions and just playing in the tight, and, you know, a real nasty performance in terms, and I mean that as a compliment, in terms of just being an absolute nuisance in defence, and in attack, as we said, the intensity to blow anything that was thrown in front of them to create the quick ball was fantastic tonight, and that will put them in real good stead, because they've come to Connacht tonight and really put on a masterclass on how to win a game in tight conditions.
Yes, they certainly did. CJ Stander was excellent. And so many big players. And Connacht, well, you see Bundy Aki, we did mention it a couple of times as well. There was a lot of times in that game where they missed his real spark and energy and his ability to drag the team with him almost.
Yeah, and it's just a shame that it took to the 77th, 78th minute for Connacht to show that bit of spark. And unfortunately, for most of that time in the game period before that, it just wasn't working for them.